TV and Luminous Radio in India. And welcome to all of our friends from the Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas, DCYIA. Please visit our Vatican News YouTube channel to find translation in American Sign Language, or ASL. We see Pope Francis here arriving into the halls of the Catholic University of Leuven. This is the oldest Catholic university in the world. 600 years old. It's celebrating its 600th anniversary this year. The Holy Father flew to Belgium yesterday evening after spending the day in Luxembourg. This morning the Pope met with King Philip of Belgium and then spoke to the country's civil authorities and the diplomatic corps at Leuven Castle. University's choir welcome the Holy Father, and he will be brought up into the main hall. So this university was founded with the papal bull Sapientiae Immarcescibilis, which was issued by Pope Martin V on December 9th, 1425. And this came at the request of the city of Leuven, supported by John IV, Duke of Brabant, and the city's clergy. Initially, the Catholic University of Leuven comprised 4 faculties: humanities, canon law, civil law, and medicine. And then a few years later, in 1432, the Pope authorized the addition of the theological faculty. Then, just over a century after its founding, the university had about 2,000 students, among whom stood great minds such as the humanist Desiderius Erasmus, who remained in Leuven for several years and contributed to the development of the young university. Erasmus was responsible for the publication of St. Thomas More's famous work, Utopia. It was published in Leuven in 1516. The clapping you hear is Holy Father being wheeled in to the hall here and signing the Book of Honor. So Erasmus, while he was in Leuven, also was involved in the founding of the Trilingual College in 1517, known as the School of New Knowledge in Europe, for the study of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. Erasmus is remembered as one of the fathers of humanism. So the Catholic University of Leuven was engaged in the Catholic response to the Reformation in the 16th century, and it was suppressed by the forces of the French Revolution in 1797, and then was re-established by the Belgian bishops in 1834. Prior to that, it had a very famous library that was burned during the German invasion in 1914. The library was then rebuilt with American funds and books donated by many nations in 1921 to 28, but then it was later destroyed again by a fire during the German invasion of 1940, but then afterwards was finally restored. The university remained a single entity until 1968. At that point it was split, based on linguistic differences, into 2 distinct universities, one in Flemish and based in Leuven, And then the Catholic University of Leuven in French, located in the newly created city of Louvain-la-Neuve, approximately 24 kilometers southwest of Leuven. Holy Father still signing the Book of Honor. And today the Catholic University has chosen to pursue internationally oriented scientific development. Its research center has grown rapidly, as has the number of students. Currently has enrolled over 60,000 students distributed across various campuses inside and outside the city, and it employs nearly 10,000 staff members in each sector, along with the university hospitals. It is one of the leading European research organizations and can certainly be considered a global player in numerous fields. The mission of the Catholic University of Leuven is based on the Christian vision of humanity and the world, and it seeks to position itself as a place for open discussion on social, philosophical, and ethical topics, as well as a center for critical thought within the community. With Pope Francis, we see the Rector of the Catholic University, his name is Luxembourg. Pope Francis finishing up his signing of the Book of Honor. Now, Leuven is a city of just over 100,000 inhabitants, and it is capital of the Flemish province of Brabant, located in the Flanders region in the center of Belgium, along the Dijl River. It's about 26 kilometers from the capital of Brussels. Pope Francis gets out of his wheelchair and stands and prepares to sit down. And the Holy Father will be welcomed here.
Buon pomeriggio, Santità. A nome dell'Università Cattolica di Lovanio e del suo rettore, professore Luxembourg, le diamo il nostro benvenuto. Siamo particolarmente onorati della sua venuta nel nostro paese, in questa città e in questa università. Siamo lieti che lei si sia completamente ristabilito. Rector zelfs, geachte aanwezigen, aan u allen ook een heel hartelijk welkom.
The Rector of the University,
6 eeuwen zullen er straks verstreken zijn sinds 9 december 1425. De dag waarop Paus Martinus V zijn bul uitvaardigde. De Leuvense Universiteit is daarmee de oudste nog bestaande universiteit van Europa die ingebed is in de katholieke traditie. KU Leuven is een door waarden gedreven instelling die niet alleen inzet op intellectuele groei, maar ook op sociale, ethische en spirituele ontwikkeling. En die bovendien aandacht heeft voor de meest kwetsbaren in onze maatschappij. Rector zelfs had het vorige week in zijn speech bij de opening van het academiejaar over verbondenheid. Over het belang van sociale cohesie in deze universiteit en over solidariteit in onze samenleving. Ik nodig u nu alvast uit voor uw speech, zo meteen, meneer de rector. Maar laten we eerst even luisteren naar wat muziek uit 2 koorboeken van Petrus Alamire, vandaag gebracht door Cappella Pratensis. Ensemble in residentie bij de Alamire Foundation, het studiecentrum voor muziek in de lage landen van KU Leuven. Cappella Pratensis brengt polyfonie uit het rijke repertoire van de Franco-Vlaamse school uit het begin van de 16e eeuw. Met zometeen het Kyrie uit de Missa Fort Seulement van de Vlaamse polyfonist Matthäus Pipelare. Graag een applaus voor Cappella Pratensis.
Singing in honor of his visit. And that was a rendition of the Kyrie eleison in polyphonic music. And now this is Luke.
Heilige Vader, van harte
Says the
welkom
Rector
in Leuven.
of the Catholic
U bezoekt
University of
ons op
Leuven.
een historisch moment.
Holy Father,
Binnenkort vieren we de
I
600ste
extend a warm
verjaardag
welcome to
van
you in
de
Leuven.
stichting van de universiteit hier
Your visit
in
comes at a
Leuven.
historic moment.
Een universiteit die zich ontwikkelde in de christelijke bedding van het West-Europa van de 15e eeuw.
Soon we will celebrate
Een
the
universiteit die ten
600th
opzichte van de
anniversary
tijd
of our
doorstond
university.
sociale
A
en
university
religieuze
that has
omwentelingen,
developed on the Christian
overleefde
foundations of
en
Western Europe
telkens weer
in the
zocht
15th
naar
century.
de wederzijdse verrijking
Our
van
university has
menselijke
withstood the
reden en het
vicissitudes
vermoeden
of
van
time,
transcendentie.
survived social and religious upheavals, and
In
still seeks the
1985
mutual
pleitte Rector de
enrichment
zomer
of
bij
human
het bezoek
reason
van
and the
Paus
presumption
Johannes Paulus
of
II
transcendence.
voor de vrijheid om te dwalen.
In 1985, the Rector
De
Emeritus de
inzichten die onze
Somme
wetenschappers gaandeweg
invoked the
verwerven,
freedom to
situeren zich
wonder
vaak
during the
in de
visit of
grijze
Pope
zone
John
tussen
Paul
weten en
II.
niet weten.
The knowledge that our scientists
komen
are
tot stand
gradually
in het
acquiring
volle besef
often
nog niet
lies
alles
in the
en
gray
al zeker
area
niet
between knowing
ultiem te
and
weten.
not knowing.
Deze moeizame
They develop
zoektocht
with
naar
a full
gedeeltelijke
awareness of
en
not yet
voorlopige
knowing
waarheid
everything, and
gaat soms
certainly
gepaard met
not
vooronderstellingen
knowing
die achteraf
anything
fout blijken te
definitive.
zijn. En bevindingen die
This
soms
arduous search
onbegrip
for a
opleveren.
partial and provisional truth
Nieuwe
is
paden
sometimes
verkennen houdt
accompanied by
inderdaad het risico
assumptions
in
that
te
later
dwalen.
prove false,
Maar zoals
and by
stond in het
discoveries
stel,
that
lang niet
occasionally
iedereen
cause
die dwaalt,
misunderstandings.
loopt verloren.
Indeed, exploring new paths
Vandaag, en dat is
carries
belangrijk
the
om te
risk of getting
beklemtonen,
lost.
is de academische vrijheid om te dwalen
But
gelukkig geen
As
strijdpunt meer.
Tolkien said,
We zijn
not
inmiddels
all
een
who wonder
zelfstandige
are lost.
universiteit, geworteld in christelijke waarden en
Today,
inspiratie.
fortunately, the freedom to
We
wonder is
werken
no
in
longer a bone of
wetenschappelijke
contention.
openheid,
Today,
onbevangen
we are an
en
independent
ongebonden.
university, rooted in
En
Christian
precies in die
values and
onafhankelijkheid ligt
inspiration.
mogelijk onze allergrootste
Our
waarde voor de kerk.
Scientific work is
Onze
open
universiteit
without
kan een
prejudices
kritische
or
partner zijn.
barriers.
Een
It is
plaats voor
precisely
open
in this
discussie
independence that
over
perhaps
ethische,
lies our
maatschappelijke
greatest
en
value for the
levensbeschouwelijke
Church.
thema's.
Our
Een kritisch,
university can
loyaal
be a critical
denkcentrum
partner, a place for
dat de
open
katholieke
discussion
gemeenschap inspireert,
on
maar ook
ethical,
uitdaagt.
social,
Een
and
denkcentrum dat
philosophical
vanuit
issues.
dat christelijk
A center
wereldbeeld ook de
of
samenleving durft uit te
Critical
brengen.
and loyal reflection
En
that
dat is nodig.
inspires us, but also
U bezoekt
challenges
ons
the
in een
Catholic
tijd
community.
waarin zoveel op zoek zijn naar
Ours
zingeving.
is a center of
Een tijd
reflection
van
that also
bloeiende
dares to
onzekerheid,
challenge society
van
based on this
geopolitieke
Christian vision
verschuivingen
of
en
the
nieuw
world.
brandhaar, de druk op ecologie en
This
klimaat,
is what is needed. You
technologische
are visiting
revolutie,
us at a
ontwrichtende
time when many people are
polarisering,
searching for meaning and
enorme
answers.
migratie en
In an
vluchtelingenstroom.
era of increasing
En over de
uncertainty,
vluchteling
geopolitical
wil ik het niet
changes,
hebben.
new conflicts, pressure on ecology and climate,
Tijdens vele van uw reizen heeft u de
technological revolution and
vluchtelingenproblematiek
polarization,
aangekaart.
enormous
De
migratory
vluchteling
flows,
van onze tijd
and refugees.
lijkt op de vrouw zonder huis die aanklopt aan de deur van vader Tjepanov bij Tolstoj. Panov vergeet zijn
Throughout your
zoon.
numerous
Hij wendt zich
journeys, you have addressed
resoluut
the issue
tot
of
zijn
refugees.
naast. En juist
The
daarin
refugee of our time resembles the homeless woman who knocks
Wat
on
je
Father
aan de
Panov's
minste van mijn
door in
broeders doet,
Tolstoy.
heb je aan mij
Father
gedaan.
Panov forgets
in
his
Matthäus
concern for
25.
God and decisively turns to his
Aan de
neighbor.
deur
And it
en
is
er zal u worden
precisely in this
opengedaan.
that he meets God.
horen we in Matthäus
Whatever you
7.
did for the least
nu,
of my brothers,
De vluchteling
you
klopt
did
aan
for
onze
me,
deur.
is heard in
Maar wordt
Matthew
er
25.
opengedaan.
Knock, and it will be opened
Miljoenen
to you,
mensen
is
zijn
heard in
ontworteld
Matthew
door politiek
7.
geweld.
Well, the
Klimaatverandering,
refugee
schending
is
van
knocking
mensenrechten.
at our
Eind
door.
2023
Will it be opened?
waren zo'n 117 miljoen mensen gedwongen op de vlucht.
Millions of people have been uprooted by political violence, climate change, and human rights violations. By the end of 2023, about 117 million people had been forcibly displaced.
Seksuele exploitatie of
Numerous
gezinsscheiding.
human rights violations are not only the triggering cause, too often they continue during the
leidt
flight.
tot een heel grote
At
psychosociale
European borders,
kwetsbaarheid.
detention, police
Veel
violence,
vluchtelingen zijn
sexual
geraakt in hun
exploitation, or
basisvertrouwen
family
in anderen.
separation
En in
are
een
all too
voorspelbare,
often part of the
betekenisvolle wereld.
refugees'
Ze kloppen aan de
experiences.
deur.
This
Met de
accumulation of
inbrengende
trauma
vraag
leads to great
naar een herstel van
psychosocial
vertrouwen
vulnerability.
en waardigheid.
Many refugees have had their fundamental trust in
op de deur,
others
beste genodigden.
and in a predictable,
Heilige Vader, het is meer dan een
unreasonable,
vraag naar
meaningful
rechtvaardigheid.
world shaken.
Hier
They
zijn
are knocking at the
rechtvaardigheid en
door
verantwoordelijkheid in
with
het
an
geding.
insistent
Onze landen
request
zijn
for the
geen
trust
moreel
and
neutrale
dignity to be
bijstanders.
restored.
Zij hebben verplichtingen die voortvloeien uit humaniteit en internationaal erkend recht, maar ook
This
uit
knocking at the door is more than a request for charity. Justice and responsibility are at
die
stake.
meegeleid heeft
Our
tot
countries are not morally neutral witnesses.
kunstmatige
They have
grenzen
obligations
en
derived from a
economische
sense of humanity and internationally recognized rights,
schuilt
but
de
also
vraag
from the
naar een
responsibility of a
samenleving die
violent
de
history
eigen
of Western
vertrouwde
colonization
leefwereld durft herdenken
that has contributed
en
to the creation of
herverdelen.
failed states, artificial borders,
Zowel
and
de
economic
universiteit als de kerk
dependency.
bewegen zich in deze
Behind the
uitdagende
refugees' plea
werkelijkheid en beide
lies the
horen we dat
request for a
aanhoudend
society that
kloppen
dares to
op de
rethink
deur.
and redistribute the universe, its universe. Both the university and the
Hier en
church
elders in Europa
operate in
leidt
this
de instroom van
reality
vluchtelingen
that
tot scherp
challenges
en
and
gepolariseerd
stimulates us.
debat.
Both feel an
Sommigen pleiten
insistent
voor
knocking
verregaande
at their door.
solidariteit, anderen juist voor het versterken van grenzen. Al te vaak wordt de vluchteling niet voorgesteld als een slachtoffer van mensenrechtenschendingen.
The influx of
maar als een
refugees is
bedreiging
giving
van het
rise to a
culturele
lively and
leefwereld,
polarized
welvaart
debate.
en soms zelfs
Some
veiligheid.
advocate for broad solidarity,
Na de Tweede
while
Wereldoorlog
others,
spraken we af dat
conversely,
staten
call for
slachtoffers van
stronger
vervolging toegang tot
borders.
bescherming
Too
zouden
often
geven.
the refugee is presented
Maar
not as
zelfs
a victim
dat
of human
beginsel
rights violations,
staat vandaag
but as a
op de
threat
helling.
to our cultural environment, our
Als
prosperity,
universitaire
and even our
gemeenschap verzetten we
security.
ons tegen deze globalisering van onverschilligheid.
After World War II, we
ons
agreed
tegen
that states should provide access
die
and
diversiteit
protection to
vernietigen
victims of
door algehele
persecution,
assimilatie
but
als
today
voorwaarde
even
te
this
stellen
principle is
voor
being
aanvaarding.
questioned.
En we vinden
As an
daarbij
academic community, we
inspiratie
oppose
in
the
uw woorden
globalization of
van Fratelli
indifference.
Tutti.
We oppose
Ik citeer,
ideologies that destroy diversity by
vergeten dat er
making
geen
general
ergere vorm van
assimilation a
vervreemding
condition of
bestaat
acceptance.
dan zich
We
ontworteld
find
te
inspiration
voelen
in
en
your
bij niemand
words in
thuis te horen.
Fratelli Tutti.
Een land zal alleen vruchtbaar zijn en zijn
forgotten
mensen zullen pas vrucht dragen
That there is no worse
en hun toekomst in
alienation
handen
than
nemen in de mate dat
experiencing
het
not
een
to
gevoel
have
van
roots,
verbondenheid
not to belong
onder
to
zijn
anyone.
inwoners kan stimuleren.
A
De
land will be
integratie
fertile, a people will
tussen
bear
generaties en
fruit and be
verschillende
able to
gemeenschappen
generate
kan
a
realiseren.
future,
En ook
only
nog
to the
eens,
extent that
alles
it
kan
gives life to
uitschakelen wat ons
relationships
ongevoelig
of
maakt voor
belonging
anderen
among its members,
en tot verdere
to the extent that it
vervreemding.
creates bonds of integration between generations,
Mensen
and
zijn
the
niet
different
enkel buren, maar
communities that
broeders
compose
en
it,
zusters in
and
dezelfde
also to the extent
gedeelde
that it breaks the
werkelijkheid. En de
spirals
kerk
that cloud the
toont dat
senses,
in daden,
always
en dat
distancing us
beklemtonen
from
we
one
veel te
another.
weinig hier in onze samenleving. De wereldwijde inzet voor de ondersteuning van vluchtelingen tijdens uw pontificaat is gewoonweg indrukwekkend.
People are not
Ik
just
denk aan het
neighbors,
werk
but
van
brothers and
Caritas
sisters in the
Internationalis,
same shared
aan de
reality.
directe
The
hulp
Church
van
demonstrates
parochies en
this through
congregaties over
its
de hele
actions.
wereld. Of
The
aan het
global
diplomatieke werk van de
commitment to
kerk
refugees
in
during your
en
pontificate is
rondom
impressive.
crisisgebieden.
I think of the Caritas
Onze
Internationalis
universiteit
network,
volgt dit
the direct aid
voorbeeld,
provided by
samen met onze
parishes and
partners
communities
uit het
worldwide,
globale zuiden dragen
or
we
the
bij aan
church's diplomatic
capaciteitsopbouw.
work in crisis
We
zones
vangen bedreigde
or on their
wetenschappers en
behalf.
studenten op met programma's
Our
zoals
university
Scholars
follows
at
this
Risk.
example.
We zorgen voor
Together with our
toegankelijke
partners in the
begeleiding van
Global
vluchtelingen
South,
en
we
gebruiken
contribute
onze
to
expertise
capacity building.
voor de
We
behandeling
host
van
endangered
jongeren
academics and
die hun land
students
zijn
through
ontvlucht
programs
en met
like
trauma's
Scholars at Risk.
of psychische problemen
We
kampen.
provide accessible support to
Onze
refugees
juristen
and
en
use our
ethici leggen zich toe
expertise
op
to
complexe
care
vragen over
for
rechtsschades
young people who have fled
die
their
uitdrukking
country
geven aan
and
solidariteit
who
voor
present with
slachtoffers van
trauma or
mensenrechtsschendingen.
mental health issues.
En als universiteit met een
Our
wereldwijde
lawyers
uitstraling,
and
dat durf ik wel
ethic
onderstrepen,
specialists address complex
streven we
issues
ernaar
such
om
as
de
legal
implicaties
frameworks that
van
express
vluchtelingenstromen
solidarity
hier
with
en
victims of
de
human rights
oorzaken van massale
violations.
vlucht uit al die landen
As a
aan te pakken.
world-class university that welcomes
En
students
onze
from
kracht
all over
ligt
the
wellicht in
world,
het feit dat we
we are
iedereen
committed to
verwelkomen
exploring the
in
implications
een
of
gemeenschap met
refugee
een heel
flows
grote
here and
diversiteit
the causes of
aan
mass
religieuze
departures
en
from all these countries.
niet-confessionele levensbeschouwelijke groepen.
Our strength lies in welcoming
maakt werk van
everyone
een
into a
open dialoog op
community
basis van
composed of a
wederzijds
wide
begrip, ook
variety
tussen
of
de
non-confessional,
En ze probeert
religious,
zo
and philosophical
harmonie
groups.
en vrede te
The
bevorderen.
university is
En daar
engaged
ten
in
aanzien
open
van ons
dialogue
heel
based on
expliciet
mutual
inspireren
understanding,
door
even among
christelijke waarden
religions.
en idealen.
In this way, it seeks to promote harmony
En
and
onze
peace.
studenten zullen morgen
In doing so,
in
we
die
explicitly
complexe
draw
wereld
from the
antwoorden
Christian
vinden.
values and ideals.
We willen niet alleen hun kritisch denkvermogen stimuleren, maar hen ook vormen tot mondige en betrokken mensen.
Our students will need
Zo
to find
worden alle
answers in
Belgische
tomorrow's
studenten
world.
gevormd in
We
wijsbegeerte
want to
en
not only
ethiek en
stimulate their
religie,
critical
zingeving en
spirit, but also
levensbeschouwing.
train them to
En zo
become
nemen we op
mature
tal
and
van
engaged
initiatieven
individuals.
Die de zorgzaamheid
Therefore,
voor
all
kwetsbare
graduate
personen
undergraduate students take
Ik denk aan de
courses in
talrijke
philosophy and ethics,
servicetrainingstrajecten die we
as well as
organiseren
in religion,
onder de vlag
the
van
meaning of
KU
life,
Leuven
and
en
diverse
ik durf
beliefs.
echt wel zeggen dat het
Similarly, we
uitgesproken
all
engagement
have numerous initiatives
en
to
de
support the
onbaatzuchtige
care of
inzet
vulnerable people
voor de anderen
I think of the many learning courses we organize under the banner KU Leuven Engage. The sincere commitment and selfless dedication to others are palpable in many students, which is a source of hope.
En het vreemde in brede zin. De vluchteling representeert dan die ontwikkelingen die de
The image of the refugee also represents the arrival of the other and the stranger in a broad sense. The refugee thus also represents those social developments that question the obviousness of our truths and ways of life and that ask us to rethink our coexistence. The refugee thus becomes an image of events or evolutions that ask our society and its institutions, such as the university and the church, to dare to reconsider themselves. Our university has experienced crises in recent years, particularly due to concrete situations of transgressive behaviors or polarizing discussions about war and violence. This has led our university to a process of self-criticism that is making us stronger, thanks to the commitment of many members of the university community. It is a daily, continuous, never-ending process. In doing so, we consciously leave space for dissent and are open to voices, even internal ones, that disagree with the positions we take. You have also opened this space for dialogue and contradiction within the Church. Om het geschonden vertrouwen enigszins te herstellen, is een eerlijke, betrokken en warme dialoog met de slachtoffers nodig, waarbij openlijk over gemaakte fouten wordt uitgekomen. The Church faces an immense task. The shock of sexual abuse and the way it has been addressed, correctly or not in the past, weaken the moral authority with which the Church can speak in our Western world. To restore, at least in part, the trust that has been broken, an honest, committed and cordial dialogue with the victims is necessary, openly acknowledging the mistakes made. Ik denk aan de enorme betrokkenheid van zoveel vrouwen in onze eigen universitaire parochie. The authority of the Church also depends on the extent to which it embraces diversity in society. Why do we tolerate this enormous gap between men and women in a Church that is so often de facto led by women? I think of the enormous commitment of many women in our university parish. Our Faculty of Theology and Religious Studies has trained many lay people, particularly women since the Second Vatican Council. The fact that these women now sit on episcopal councils and in other leadership positions is an example for the global Church. Archbishop Linden recently replaced the auxiliary bishop of Brabant, Wallen, with a committed woman. Wouldn't the Church be more cordial if it gave women a prominent place, including...
Het is zo bemoedigend dat onze Vlaamse bisschoppen een aanspreekpunt...
Wouldn't the Church gain moral authority in our regions if it didn't address the issue of gender diversity so rigidly? And if, like the university, it showed greater openness towards the LGBTQ plus community? It is encouraging to note that our Flemish bishops have created a contact point for called Homosexuality and Faith that organizes, for example, an ecumenical prayer moment for the LGBTQ plus community during Antwerp's Gay Pride.
Once and for all universele antwoorden.
In this case, the Church worldwide is called to dialogue with recent scientific discoveries with theology. I am pleased that our theologians are exploring these difficult issues, focusing on how the Church can be close to all people. Today, the Church too often provides universal answers once and for all. It is encouraging to see that as Pope you dare to ask aloud who you are to judge people of different sexual orientations. With the Synod on Synodality, in which women are participating in full capacity for the first time, you have put on the agenda the important issue of how the Church can preserve its unity and diversity, and have encouraged constructive dissent within the Church. In doing so, our bishops, among others, have requested that diversity be accepted.
Geen muren.
The arrival of the refugee implies the arrival of the other and the strange. It challenges the take-for-granted nature of our truths, our values, and our ways of living. And so it is for both the church and the university.
Die oproep doet in een wereld waarin we er juist steeds meer toe neigen om muren te bouwen, ons af te sluiten van wat anders en vreemd is. Die door angst en
You have
zelfbehoud
demonstrated an exceptional commitment to the condition of refugees. As a child of migrants, you call for policies that defend the equality of every human being and not everyone's right, and as well as everyone's right to a safe home. We must build bridges, you say, not walls. Because the refugee knocking at our door, like Father Panov, is not just a brother or sister in need, but God Himself. The particularly significant aspect is that you are making this appeal in a world where, in fact, we are increasingly inclined to build walls, to close ourselves off from what is different and foreign. This reaction, fueled by fear and the instinct for self-preservation, is partly understandable. Indeed, in some regions, poorly managed migration especially affects the most vulnerable populations. Consequently, they fall prey to political forces that exploit their fear. Our common inspiration challenges us to take this fear seriously, working towards a creative openness, towards all who may seem different, in terms of religion, political ideology, culture, or origin, but with whom we deeply share our humanity. The refugee is knocking at our door. The persistent sound of their knocking is raw and penetrating. Shall we open the door for them? And that was Luc Sells, the rector of the Catholic University of Leuven.
Hartelijk dank, rector Sels. Aan KU Leuven krijgt solidariteit met vluchtelingen ook vorm in een zorgaanbod voor vluchtelingen. Uitgebouwd door de faculteit Psychologie en Pedagogische Wetenschappen en het Universitair Psychiatrisch Centrum KU. Samen ontwikkelen ze traumazorg voor vluchtelingen.
The university's work with refugees
en wetenschappers die hun land ontvlucht zijn,
the help of the psychology department in helping people
tot een psychiatrische dagbehandeling voor jonge
through trauma therapy.
Voor de bijzondere gelegenheid van vandaag hebben 2 jonge vluchtelingen bij de student aan deze universiteit een getuigenis voorbereid. Zij vertellen u over hun wereld en over de wereld waarop zij hopen.
Be a video played, I believe, about entitled "The Dead Don't Dream." This is a poem. Allah sings a Palestinian song.
Mijn zus kan verschil maken.
My sister can tell the difference between a rocket shot from a jet and a rocket shot from a tank. She's 10. Everyone in Palestine has lost someone. So you don't have the time to enjoy your childhood. You need to grow up fast.
Vroeger konden de Palestijnen en ook mijn ouders reizen naar de Dode Zee, naar Haifa, naar Java, naar Jeruzalem.
Jerusalem, it says everyone could travel. They would talk about the beauty of Palestine, says this young man. But when I wanted to travel, I couldn't. It was impossible. Now the borders have been closed, so we're actually in prison.
I'm the first child of my family. I had a very good mom who was very inspiring to me until this day also. She understood the power of education. That's what she gave me. She was always pushing me to read, always buying me books, and she has given me very loving and positive environment around me. Like literally we grew up together. She was my friend. Going to medicine was shocking in a way. Before I didn't understand it because I didn't think the world was like against women. The number of women that I saw who went through sexual violence, female genital mutilation, child marriage, and it was just an eye-opener for me. It's so troubling they don't even know they're going through this oppression. They're just calling it a culture.
Toen ik mijn diploma van
The young man in the video said, when I got my degree, I got a scholarship and I went to Tunisia. It was my dream to become a doctor. But if I had graduated in Tunisia, what could I have done? I couldn't stay there. I would have had to return to Palestine. I saw war, no jobs, nothing, just a prison. So I needed a plan. I needed to become a refugee.
When the war started, I was in Aksum because I wanted to do my residency in pediatric there. So like the previous day, we were having outside in a hotel, we were having dinner, we were having fun, and in the middle of the night, we hear some shooting, and then after, I could have never in my life have guessed I would see so much destruction. Early in the morning, like I think we walked for 10 hours, and like there were bodies everywhere, like you can smell it, you can see it. It was like that. It was so terrifying thing to see. You know, like I love animals, but it felt like we were less than animals, you know. I really prayed, I really prayed, just like save my family, just save us.
As a Palestinian, I live in between two worlds. I live in Europe, a safe place. But it's also unsafe, because you lose a part of yourself. And then, I mean, my parents, my brother and sister, my community. My mind is never quiet. I'm safe and unsafe as well.
After I came here, I talked to other people from Congo, a lot of people from Somalia, Eritrea, Afghanistan. The common theme everywhere is the war is like literally on the women's bodies. Women and children are not just casualties in a war. We are the targets. Here after the war also, you are expected to be thankful and okay with whatever accommodation that you have. I'll say honestly, like when you come here, like being marginalized because you are a refugee, and I think like we need to understand the gravity of the situation. So for women to have to go through all this violence and just move on with our life like nothing happened, it just doesn't make sense to me.
My family is
no longer together.
I hope
my family will be at my table soon. The entire family. So I can share a meal with my parents. Everyone at the same table. Yes, that's my dream.
My life just revolves around my family. And for a year, I couldn't talk to them. I really don't know how I passed those moments, really. I think I have a lot on my shoulder in a way. And just constantly try to be like, okay, I am here. It's okay. I can do this.
سلام لأرض خلقت للسلام.
Peace for the land that has never seen a peaceful day.
ما دمت أحلم
As long as I dream, I am alive, because the dead don't dream.
نصنتي تنفاس كلو زكفلو أهيوة
Helen sings an Ethiopian song.
سبتعدلو عصرت تعصحيات برحانكي وتريلو نصنت كاريريو دلايكي تخونلو اتبربتو سمرت نصنت دالو تكلو كم بالها.
And that was a video shown, projected here in the Catholic University of Leuven before the Holy Father of 2 refugees who come from Ethiopia and Palestine and their experiences and their dreams. And now we will hear another polyphonic song. And now I believe we are about to move into the Holy Father's speech. The room is being prepared.
Capella Pratensis bracht na de twee getuigenissen die we net zagen het Agnus Dei uit een mis van Jean Mouton, gebaseerd op zijn motet Tua est potentia, dat eindigt met de beroemde woorden van de psalmist: Geef vrede in onze tijd, o Heer, da pacem Domine. Een tekst die perfect aansluit bij het einde van dit Agnus Dei, Dona nobis pacem. Ik geef graag het woord nu aan u, Heilige Vader.
And the presenter welcomes the Holy Father and invites him to deliver his address here at the Catholic University of Leuven. The Holy Father getting his speech, putting his glasses on.
Signor Rettore, illustri professori, cari fratelli e sorelle, buon pomeriggio.
Distinguished Rector, esteemed professors, dear brothers and sisters, good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here among you. I thank the Rector for his words of welcome, in which he reflected on the tradition and historical roots of the university, and on the principal challenges we all face today. Indeed, the first task of a university is to offer integral formation, so that students may be equipped with the tools needed for interpreting the present and planning for the future.
La formazione culturale, infatti, non è mai fine a se stessa.
Yet cultural formation is never an end in itself, and universities should never run the risk of becoming cathedrals in the desert. They are, by their nature, driving forces of ideas and sources of new inspiration for human life and thought, and for facing the challenges in society. In other words, they are generative places. It is a fine thing to view universities as generating culture and ideas, but above all, they should promote the passion for seeking truth at the service of human progress. In a particular way, Catholic universities such as yours are called to offer the decisive contribution of leaven, salt, and light of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the living tradition of the Church, which is ever open to new situations and ideas.
Desidero allora rivolgervi
I would now like to extend a simple invitation to each of you. Expand the boundaries of knowledge. Rather than multiplying concepts and theories, make academic and cultural formation a critical space that both understands and speaks about life. There's a short biblical story in the book of Chronicles that I would like to share with you. The protagonist, Jabez, addresses this plea to God: "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border." The name Jabez means pain, A name he was given because his mother had greatly suffered during childbirth. Yet Jabez does not wish to close himself off within his own pain, dragging his feet in lamentation. Instead, he asks the Lord to expand the boundaries of his life in order that he might enter into a greater, more welcoming and blessed place. The opposite of that is our closures. Expanding boundaries and becoming an open space for humanity and for society is the great mission of a university. In our own day, we find ourselves facing an ambivalent situation with its limited boundaries. On the one hand, we are immersed in a culture marked by a refusal to seek the truth. We have lost the ardent passion for searching. We would rather find comfort and refuge in the tenuous thought that all things are equal. Everything is the same. Everything is relative. Everything is equal. On the other hand, when the question of truth arises in university contexts and elsewhere, we can often fall into a rationalist approach, considering as true only those things that can be measured and tested by experiment, as if life were uniquely restricted to what is material and visible. In both these cases, boundaries are limited. With reference to the first type of limit, we find a kind of intellectual weariness which consigns us to a permanent state of uncertainty, lacking all passion, as if the search for meaning were useless and reality were incomprehensible. This worldview is expressed by some of the characters in Franz Kafka's works, which describe the tragic and distressing human condition of the 19th century. In a dialogue between two characters in one of his stories, we find this affirmation: I think she doesn't worry about the truth because it's too tiring. Searching for the truth is indeed tiring, since it obliges us to move out of ourselves, to take risks, to ask ourselves questions. Yet, due to an intellectual weariness, a superficial life is more appealing to us, one that does not deal with new challenges. There is likewise the danger of being attracted to an easy, effortless, and comfortable faith that does not call anything into question. Turning to the second kind of limited boundaries, today we run the risk of falling once again into a soulless rationalism, conditioned by a technocratic culture. When human beings are regarded as mere matter, when reality is constrained within the limits of what is visible, when reason is reduced to mathematical and experimental sciences, much is lost. In this way, we lose our sense of wonder, and when our sense of wonder is gone, we can't think. Our sense of wonder is the beginning of philosophy and of thought. We lose our ability to marvel, which urges us to look beyond, to raise our eyes heavenwards, to discover that hidden truth which responds to such fundamental questions as, why am I alive? What is the meaning of my life? what is the ultimate aim and purpose of this journey? Romano Guardini asked himself, why is it that man, despite so much progress, is so unknown to himself and becomes ever more so? It is because he has lost the key to understanding his own essence. The law of our truth states that man understands himself only if he begins from above, from beyond himself, from God, for man's very existence comes from him. Dear professors, instead of falling into intellectual weariness or a soulless rationalism, may we too learn to pray like Jabez. Lord, widen our borders. Let us ask God to bless our work at the service of a culture capable of facing today's challenges. The Holy Spirit we have received as a gift urges us to search, to open up spaces for our thought and action, until He leads us into the fullness of truth. We are aware, as the Rector said earlier, that we do not yet know everything. At the same time, this very limitation drives us forward, helps us to keep the flame of research alight, and to remain an open window onto today's world. In this regard, I would like to express sincere words of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for expanding boundaries. You have become a welcoming environment for so many refugees obliged to flee from their lands. Amidst great insecurity, enormous hardships, and often excruciating suffering, we have just seen a moving... Thank you. We have just seen a moving video testimony. While some people call for the reinforcement of physical borders, you, as a university community, have expanded your borders. Thank you. You have opened your arms in welcome to those marked by suffering in order to help them study and grow. Thank you. Indeed, what we need is a culture that expands boundaries, and avoids sectarianism, or exalting oneself above others. A culture immersed as good leaven within our world, contributing to the common good of humanity. This responsibility, this great hope is entrusted to you.
Un teologo di questa terra, anche figlio docente di questa università, ha affermato:
a theologian from your land, a student and professor of this university, stated that we are the burning bush that allows God to manifest Himself. Keep this flame alive. Expand boundaries. Be restless seekers of truth. And do not allow your enthusiasm to wane, lest you yield to intellectual lethargy, which is a terrible sickness. Be protagonists in generating a culture of inclusion, compassion, and attentiveness towards the weakest, as you seek to overcome the great challenges of our world today. And please do not forget to pray for me. Thank you. sustained applause for Pope Francis's speech here at the Catholic University of Leuven. And the Holy Father puts on his stole so that he may bless those present. We prepare ourselves to receive our Holy Father's blessing.
Dominus vobiscum. Sit nomen Domini benedictum. Aiuterium nostrum in nomine Domini. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, Filius, Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
And now the Holy Father is greeted by the presenter in the name of the university. Thank you, she says, for your blessing and for your words. And we would like to offer you two gifts in a sign of our gratitude. Professor Benedict Lemelin from
en lid van de Pauselijke Bijbelcommissie overhandigt zometeen een boek met essays van 24 theologen die werkzaam zijn aan de faculteit. Dit bijzondere bezoek inspireerde hen om cruciale vragen te onderzoeken over de toestand van de wereld, de zin van het leven, de relevantie van het christelijke geloof en de hervorming van de kerk. Dit boek zet aan tot kritische reflectie en nodigt uit tot dialoog, precies wat we in deze tijd hard nodig hebben. Geduld, nuance en goede gesprekken. Professor Lemelin, ik nodig u uit om het boek nu aan zijn heiligheid te overhandigen.
And one of the professors of theology brings the Holy Father a book and greets him. The first gift of two.
Sinds 1909 prijkt op het zegel van de Leuvense Universiteit de Sede Sapientiae, of de zetel der wijsheid. Het 15e-eeuwse beeld van de universitaire patrones is ook een van de pronkstukken van de Sint-Pieterskerk. Het werk dat rector Sels zo meteen aan zijn heiligheid zal overhandigen, is daarop gebaseerd. Het werd gedesigned en geproduceerd in het Princess Elizabeth Additive Manufacturing Lab, het 3D-printlabo van KU Leuven.
And this is the second gift is a statue, a small production that's given to the Holy Father to celebrate the 600th anniversary of the university. It bears the years 1424 to 2024.
En dat brengt ons aan het eind van deze academische zitting. Grazie mille per la sua visita.
Thank you, Holy Father, for your visit, and we wish you every good and a good return to Rome on Sunday evening.
Alle aanwezigen vragen om recht te staan voor de uittrede van zijn heiligheid.
And after this, the Holy Father greets the university professors And he now will be taken at the elevator to another part of the university for a small, very brief reception by several refugees who are from different origins and are being assisted here by the Catholic University, allowed to study in hopes of a better life. So each of the migrants that the Holy Father will meet has a different story of persecution and a different religious background. This small group of 5 people include 2 that we saw earlier in the video, this brief video that the Holy Father
People on the balcony may leave the hall
in the
via the stairs
Grand
at
Hall.
the back and then take the back entrance through the door
One
of the
of
old
them
market.
was from Palestine, Gaza, another from Ethiopia, there's another from Russia, another student from Syria who is a mother and had 2, a mother and a daughter from Syria, as well as a man from Afghanistan.
Niet via de marmeren trap. En dan kan u het gebouw verlaten via de zijingang in de Zeelstraat.
Only
Mensen die een paraplu achtergelaten hebben beneden, kunnen die oppikken in de jubileumzaal. En die dan langs
the Holy
de
Father's photographer will be allowed into this room so that they maintain a close environment. If you're following on television, we see the Holy Father being brought down the halls to this encounter. In his speech here at the Catholic University of Leuven, the Holy Father reflected on the need for Catholic universities to offer integral formation for students. He also praised the university for welcoming refugees in their search for a better home and truth. The Holy Father greets a few of the refugees. He shakes each of their hands one by one. This is Allah. He is a young man from Palestine, the one we saw in the video earlier. Telling him, the Holy Father, a little bit about his experience. Speaking to university professors, the Pope earlier noted that what we need and what our world needs is a culture that expands our boundaries, one that avoids sectarianism or exalting ourselves above others. The Pope said we need a culture that is immersed as a good leaven within our world, contributing to the common good of humanity. University professors and university education, said the Pope, should ask God for the grace to widen our borders. He recalled a story from the book of Chronicles in the Old Testament about a man named Jabez. The Pope also warned researchers and those whose job it is to explore various disciplines, to never lose our sense of wonder, our ability to marvel. He says that ability to marvel looks beyond, helps us to raise our eyes to heaven, and to discover the hidden truth that responds to such fundamental questions like, why am I alive? And what is the meaning of my life? Pope Francis lamented that our modern society seems to refuse to seek the truth. He said it has lost the passion for searching, looking only for comfort, that ends up making everything equal and relative. He said we often fall into the trap of seeking just an easy, effortless, and comfortable life, a comfortable faith that doesn't call anything into question. Holy Father speaking to a young woman, Syrian refugee with her mother. Earlier, when Pope Francis arrived here at the Catholic University of Leuven, he wrote in the Book of Honor, he wrote, "May this ancient and great university always nurture minds and hearts open to the truth, capable of reading the signs of the times, and dedicated to the noble causes of civil life. Do not forget," wrote the Pope, "reality is superior to an idea. The whole is superior to its parts. Unity is superior to conflict. Time is superior to space." Those were the Holy Father's words that he wrote earlier in the Book of Honor. Pope Francis is exchanging quite a few words with the young woman from Syria. The Pope, these young people, these students here, refugee students, are assisted by the Catholic University's psychology department. They and many other refugees receive trauma therapy to overcome the difficulties that they experienced in their home countries, places they were forced to flee, making it to Belgium. And we see a bit of movement. The Holy Father bids farewell to these refugee students. And with that, as the Holy Father concludes this visit today, we conclude this live broadcast of his meeting with university professors at the Catholic University of Leuven. Join us again on Saturday for the Pope's encounter with the bishops, clergy, and religious of Belgium. On behalf of Vatican Media, I'd like to thank our in-studio audio technician, Patrizio Ciprari, and Father Pavel Reitel, our audio coordinator, as well as all of our media partners and our friends at DYCIA who have made this broadcast possible, and to all of you for joining us. Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ.
10 years of sharing the peace of Christ. Shalom World, God's own channel. A man who stood tall despite threats and trials.
If you want to stand up for what you believe is right, you won't be popular.
A story of faith, driven by a belief in God's children.